Well, hello, solopreneurs. Today we are joined by Burke Franklin, and we're going to have a very special session today on unbeatable business planning. Now, if you don't know who Burke Franklin is, Burke is the creator of BizPlanBuilder and actually an entire suite of software tools. We'll talk about that, Business Power Tool software suite. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to this or watching this, you actually get a tremendous discount on that because I negotiated with Burke to give you a special discount that you can take advantage of anytime you want to. And this particular software has been sold over 2 million times. It's a top-selling software to help entrepreneurs, advisors, assistants, solopreneurs trying to help other companies, trying to help your own company to get organized, raise capital, and just basically succeed in your day-to-day operations. And what we're going to talk about today is from literally decades of experience. This software has been around since the 90s, and Burke's been doing it much longer than that. He was helping friends getting into Apple back in the 80s, as I recall from editing the podcast with him recently. Here's the thing. You're going to learn about how to take business planning and make it real in your business in a way that'll help you grow your business, and also to position it so that if you want to grow it where you need capital, or you want to grow it where you can sell it later, or you want to just simply make sure you have a stable business, which is something we all want, you're going to benefit from this. And so with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to Burke. I believe he's got some things to show us today. Hey, welcome, Burke.
Hey, thank you, Steve. Looking forward to this. For the vision impaired, that's my name. Anyway, Business Power Tools is my company now, but you've already introduced me. I think about, we talk about business planning, and we think about business enterprises that go back, let's call it 500 years. Here's Christopher Columbus's boat. And here's this guy, he's got an idea for business, right? He says, hey, I think the world's round. And everybody in the world says, no, it's not, it's flat. And so his first fundamental problem is, he says something that runs completely against everything that people in the world believe. And I bring this slide up because if you've got something where you're doing where I don't think anybody's got something as quite as beyond belief as this, but here's a guy who succeeded anyway. And what he's going to do is he's got to find a trade route to the Orient. He's saying everybody says the earth is flat. He's going, I don't think so. And so the business plan is quite simple. Let's just head west and keep going. And you can imagine, I don't know if you saw some of the TV shows where they've got Christopher Columbus in the middle of the ocean there, and the guys are about to mutiny. And he tells one of them, well, you go back there, you're going to go straight to jail. And other various things. Everybody's motivated to keep going, in other words. And so, of course, the rest is history. But you think about how he had to, pitch this thing to a number of people to get the deal. And basically, it's I'm going to sail west, give you enough money for some guys and some ships, and I'll bring you back a bunch of gold. Pretty simple proposition. And of course, he had no business plan. But nevertheless, let's keep going. So here's, look at Marvel Comics. These guys have been around forever. And what did Stan Lee say? He's the founder of it. If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. And this is where your friends and family come in and start telling you, oh, do you realize that 4 out of 5 businesses go out of business in the first year or 5 years? If you look deeply into the SBA, the Small Business Administration facts on that statement, you'll find that businesses that, if somebody sells their business, that counts as a failure. If you just decide to do something else, it's a failure. To me, the failure is you stopped trying, you did everything you possibly could, you just couldn't make it happen. But here's an example. Facebook bought Oculus Rift for $3 billion within about a year or two of that company being founding. According to that SBA statistic, that would be a failure. Believe me, I'll take a $3 billion failure all day long. So don't let that put you off. And here's another thing. Here's this Walt Disney showing an early map of Disneyland. Now, you got to understand what this area looked like before Disney shows this picture. If you and I were standing on a mountaintop, we'd look down on a valley full of orange trees. It was all orange groves, ergo Orange County. So, but here's Disney pitching Disneyland. And people often ask, what's it going to take? What's it going to take to get this business funded? Now, I know you may or may not be looking for funding at the moment, but more often than not, sometime you may be doing that. So I'm going to address funding and just building your business with a business plan. But you're going to use it for one. You can use it for both things and a number of other things. I'll get into that in a bit too. But it took him 600 times to pitch Disneyland to investors to get the money he needed. And so that, then there's Colonel Sanders, who pitched Kentucky Fried Chicken 1,100 times. Can you imagine? And he started at 65 years old with his Social Security check or his pension. And then he ran out of money, he'd come home, and he'd go back on the road again. The Chicken Soup for the Soul authors, Jack Canfield, he lives here in town. He says they went to 153 publishers to get Chicken Soup for the Soul published, which, you gotta do what you gotta do. And sometimes it just takes a lot. Personally, I probably would have quit. It took me 50 something publishers to get my book published. But here's a little bit about me. Never fear, the cavalry has arrived. Or as some women said in one of the presentations I give, oh, a knight in shining armor. That, yeah, there I am. That's me at probably 6. Anyway, so like Steve said, I've been around, done a few things. I learned some stuff from every one of these businesses, and the deal for Apple really worked because from my word processor sales experience, because when you sell a word processor, you sell the same product a different way to different people in the organization. And likewise with his engineering software, we sold it to Apple, where we knew that different people within the Apple organization, from the engineers, the marketing people, the finance people, everybody's got a different perspective, different bias, different interest, different everything, opinion, all that stuff. So we put together this document, this business plan for them. And then, after they got the deal, after that, about, people kept coming to me I was in Silicon Valley, and they came to me for help with their business plans. They had some great ideas, some brilliant ideas. It's just the problem was they just didn't have have it all together to get funded. And I helped them fix those, and they got financed. And one day I realized, wait a minute, I've got all this content. What if I redacted all of the proprietary information, put together a template, replace the proprietary information with multiple choice options that you could edit yourself, and document it, put some comments along in it throughout it, and that became BizPlanBuilder. And that was back in 1989. And since then, BizPlanBuilder has evolved to what it is today. And we also added a number of other products. So all in all, we had about 10 products in about 3,500 retail stores. And we were doing about 12 million in sales, and I had 30 employees. So then the whole plan became, I want to turn all of this into an online dashboard. And that's where it's become today. And I can show you that a bit later. But let's talk about typically what customers and investors are looking for in your business plan. There's 3 fundamental things. That's, why your product, why now, and why from you. And why from you, we'll get into that in a bit. But this is the fundamental stuff that everybody's going to ask. You've really got to be able to address these things. The other one I want to talk about is if you're I talk about the distinction between a missionary and a mercenary. And I also ask, and investors often ask, what's a nice person like you doing in a business like this? One of the examples I think of is Yvon Chouinard at Patagonia. You may or may not know this, but he's an avid rock climber. And he started an ironworks to make pitons and rock climbing equipment. And I think to myself, who would I buy rock climbing equipment or outdoor clothing from better than a guy who's willing to hang on the side of a rock wall 1,000,000 feet up in the air and spend the night and cook and do whatever he does, from a guy who's actually doing it? So when you talk about your business, you want to include part of your story in it. Like, why are you, what motivated you to do this? I met a physician years ago. He became a doctor because he had a certain medical condition that ran in his family. He wanted to deal with it, but that's why he became a doctor. There's all kinds of reasons we have for what we're doing. And if you've got a good one that can drive to why, the missionary part of the story is you want to solve this problem in the world. You hate seeing it. You want to fix it. And the idea is just give me the money. I'm going to go do this thing and save the world. Now, if you're talking to investors, what they appreciate about that is your drive and the fact that you'll go down with the ship. On the other hand, you suck at business, usually. And on the flip side of that is the mercenary, who's really good at business because they're all about the money, and they can tell a great story and run a business. The part that gives the investors cold feet is that a mercenary, since they are about the money, will more or less jump ship if there's a better deal down the street. But if we can put both of these combinations together, I think we can save the world. So it's like giving the tin man a brain, no, the tin man a heart and the straw man a brain. And so we want to blend these two characteristics in you so you can go ahead and succeed in your business and make some money. So let's talk about your plan. Here's the thing. Investors get, well, that looks more like more than a foot-high pile of plans every day, but they get a ton of them. And there's fundamental questions you just need to address. This is really the plain English sequence of, I would call it 20 questions, but I only show 18. But who are you? Why are you in this business? How big is this opportunity? They want to know, are you like an eBay? Can you have something for the whole world? Or do you have just something for people who own fish tanks? I mean, there's a difference in the market size. So, how are you going to make money? Who else does this? Who are you competing with? You always have competitors. We'll talk about that in a bit. Who are your most important customers? Do you have partners? We talk about there's 3 ways to the top of an oak tree. You can get out a ladder and start climbing. You can sit on an acorn, or you can make friends with a big bird. The strategic partners are your big bird friends. So who's running your business? Who are your advisors? And who you're running your business, we'll talk about that, because investors are betting on the jockey more than the horse, because they see a number of different ideas that come in. Like, let's take electric cars, for example. Lots of people come with, hey, I got an electric car idea. I want $1 zillion to fund my electric car. Well, you and a dozen other people have been through my shop in the last month pitching electric cars. We're not signing non-disclosure agreements because they're all about electric cars. What we're looking for is the team of people who could actually pull it off. You could all have great ideas, but if you don't have the people to pull it off, that's where you get in trouble. And that's why they talk about betting on the jockey more than the horse. And so you and your people are crucial. Anyway, what have you done so far with the money you've got? What's this deal going to take? What are you going to do with my money? How much money can the investor make? And when do we get our money back? I mean, these are all reasonable questions, really, for yourself as well. I mean, you should be asking these. You are the investor. After it all, it is your life savings probably invested, or your credit cards, in the next 3 to 5 years of your life, if not longer. So dwell on the sequence of pitching investors for a second. It's pretty straightforward. You're in the elevator. You're going a couple of floors. You're not going 50 floors. You've got enough time for 30 seconds tops. The investor is going to say, hey, that sounds like an interesting idea. I mean, you could be at a barbecue or church meeting. I don't care where it is, but you got a brief second. You walk out and go, hey, I got this idea. So then they're going to say, well, do you have a 2-page? I think it's actually one piece of paper printed on 2 sides would be the ideal format for that. So it feels like 1 page, but it's actually 2. They'll read that. They often will not read a whole business plan because that's just painful. They don't believe you've got something yet. This will tell them you've got something. Then they're going to say, come on in for your 20-minute, the proverbial pitch. And you're going to have a pitch deck made with PowerPoint or Keynote. And sometimes they'll ask for that. And I say, give it to them ahead of time so they can see it. So that way your 20-minute pitch goes, you can spend more time answering questions. And then, of course, if they're interested, believe me, they're going to want to read your 20, 30, 40, 50-page business plan before they wire you the money for, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, $50 million. It's just, to be expected. Now they're going to want to read your business plan. But how do you get there from here? And the idea is you do it in reverse order. Of course, you're right. You think through the entire business, because now you know what's going to be in the summary, and now you know how to boil it down into a 20-minute investor pitch, and then you end up with a pitch with your elevator pitch. So this way, because I go to these investor meetings, and it's amazing. You will probably get to give 1 slide, maybe 2 if you're lucky, before they interrupt you with a question. And if you haven't really written your whole business plan, you're in trouble. And you've seen it before on this show with these guys. How many times have one of them said, because this is reality TV, okay? So you're going to get maybe 5 entrepreneurs pitching these guys, and most of them are going to look like buffoons, and then one person's going to have their act together. And the buffoons are there because, hey, it's entertaining. You watch somebody come out with a really cockamamie product idea and you think, you got to be kidding. Well, it's on there for entertainment purposes. These guys get that. But at the same time, how often have you heard them say to somebody who's just blowing it, say, do you have a business plan? Because they can't answer the questions. And so these are some of the questions you can imagine they're going to ask. And one way to really, get into their thinking is imagine this. You've got a friend. The friend says, hey man, could you give me $1,000 for my business? or $5,000 or $10,000. What would you want to know? I mean, maybe they've got a brilliant invention, but you want to know a whole lot. I mean, it's amazing when suddenly you're confronted with the opportunity to invest in somebody's business. What questions are you going to ask? Do you really trust them? That's the thing. So, what are you talking about? Name the names. You got to be specific. A lot of people think, oh yeah, pizza people will buy this. Well, name one, name a name. Give me somebody I can call, because that's what investors will do if they're smart. They're going to actually, that's part of the due diligence. They're going to check out everything you say, and they want to know. And if you make one mistake, like one friend of mine, I called him up, he's a VC. I said, Peter, if somebody comes to you and have their business plan, you like the thing, you're doing your due diligence, how many strikes do you give them if some of the due diligence doesn't square up with what they told you? He says, none. They're done. It's not 3 strikes, you're out. It's 1 strike, you're out. If you lie in one place, you're toast. So you've got to be careful. Anyway, and the thing about investors is they're hoping, they pray to their gods that somebody will walk in with something worth investing in. They're sitting on a pile of cash. They really want to put it to work, and they're hoping you're it. And just to put this in perspective, just people often ask, well, how much do I give up? I'm going to show you the math here on that. So let's say you've got a business, and what's called your pre-money valuation is $9 million. You say, okay, I think my business is worth $9 million. I'm looking for $1 million in capital. That means the business with your $9 million valuation plus their $1 million makes it a $10 million business. That means the investor gets 10% plus all the other fine print that it goes with that deal. Now, if you can do a better job on your business plan and convince somebody that it's worth $19 million and they give you $1 million, they're only going to get 5%. So it's very important to tell a really good story, coherent with the data, the numbers, and really look to see how can I be more convincing, whether it's a $900,000 pre-money deal or a $90 million deal, whatever. I threw in 9 million because, hey, it's a lot of money. We like $10 million. So that's something really important to keep in mind is, and I keep saying it over and over again, the better job you do on your business plan, the better deal you make with investors. And then part of this is the persistence. So when you get knocked down 7 times, you've got to get up 8. The reason these companies fail is because the people stopped. The biggest thing, like in real estate, you hear is location, location, location. When investors look at your business, it's management, management, management. And when you talk about anybody talking about success over time, it's persistence, persistence, persistence. It's just the way that it is. Let me talk about something else here. This is an elephant. Oftentimes when I'm going through this whole thing kind of fast, but you get the idea, and just sharing a number of ideas and things that people have asked me over the years and things I want to impart to entrepreneurs building businesses. This is kind of my highlight reel that I can get through in an hour's time that make it kind of fun. But you've heard of elephants being tied, baby elephants tied to a stake in the ground as baby elephants. Then when they grow into a large elephant, they look down at that stake and go, I never could do that. I guess I just can't. I'm just going to stand here. Never mind that a full-grown elephant can walk away with that stake and 100 others tied to him, but he doesn't know that. And that's what psychologists call learned helplessness. And we all have it to some degree. Stuff we grew up with, what our parents told us about money, that SBA thing, businesses are going to fail in 5. That's all learned helplessness. And you've got to be mindful and catch yourself when you hear these thoughts of something can't be done, can't do this, can't do that. Hold it here. So think about the elephant tied to the stick. Don't laugh because it's a little too close to home, I'm afraid. Here's one of my favorite philosophers. This is Rumi, I think it's 12th century, 13th century Persian philosopher. My favorite quote is, your task is not to seek for love. Your task is to seek and find everything within yourself that you've built against it. That is to say, it's there. The only reason you're not getting it is because you've got something within you that's repelling it. And it's an interesting idea. I've spent a number of years just working on this idea. In fact, this is really kind of the fundamental basis of a lot of psychotherapy, is getting rid of that learned helplessness thinking that you've built within yourself that pushes money, friends, relationships, success, whatever it is, away from you. My humble modification of this is this one. Your task is not to seek for love, money, success, fill in the blank. Your task is to find and remove, I say, most of everything within yourself that you've built against it. I say the most of everything because you perfectionists out there, of which I'm one, would say, well, I haven't gotten rid of everything yet. I guess it's not time. No, get rid of enough so you reach a tipping point. So at least now it's in favor of you. You've got more attraction than you've got repulsion there. So that's what the most of is about. But generally, that's the idea. It's not to seek for love, money, or success. Just get rid of the stuff within you that you've built against it. Because what's the point of chasing something down, pursuing what you want, only to catch it and then push it away, which what this is about. So it's all about your mind. A lot of this is in your mind. All this segment I'm going through is all in your mind. And we think of all of our conscious, law of attraction, oh, I really want this thing. I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. You write these lists, but this is your conscious mind. This is your conscious mind trying as hard as you can with everything you got. You got your friends, you're doing it. And then, but your mind is, your subconscious is this thing. And your conscious mind is no competition for your subconscious. So rather than pumping on the little hand cart there, you really need to learn how to drive this diesel engine. And this is the part, back to Rumi, how do I train my mind so my subconscious would agree with my conscious mind, so I go forward and do what I want to do. And the main thing is to start with, getting those ideas out of your head. One way to look for those, just for what it's worth, is if you got a pattern going on in your life, like, how come I'm always betrayed by the closest people? How come this always happens to me? Those things don't happen to everyone. They're happening to you. But that would be a pattern. You could go back to where the first time was that happened and see, oh, like, for example, my example would be sitting around the dining room table as a little kid. My grandmother would say, save the best until last. And I would save the best until last. Like, eat your vegetables, like kids are taught, eat your vegetables, then your meat, then you can get dessert. And I'm thinking, no, give me that cake, man, I want the dessert. But no, I saved the best until last. Well, there I was at the high school dance, looking at all the pretty girls thinking, ooh, I want to dance with her. And I think, no, she's the best one. I'm saving the best one till last. How do you think that worked out for me? Then I got my first job with Texas Instruments. Go out and find new accounts, or here's some accounts to go follow up on and go pursue those. What did I do? I knew which one the best one was. What did I do? I saved it till last. And then it wasn't until I did some workshops and I realized, oh my God, I'm saving the best until last because my grandmother said that back when I was like 5. Anyway, enough of that. So hope that idea helps. All right, let's look at profit, for example. People have issues around profit. Like, oh, but profit's evil. They're stealing from me. No, it's not. It's the value you bring to it. You're adding value to this. You're bringing value to the party. The profit you're making is because of your presence in the business. I just want to dwell on this a second because one of the issues people have in building a successful business is charging enough money so you can actually make a profit and this thing will live on and keep going. Another thing we've heard throughout life is, you learn from your mistakes. It's all about mistakes. I don't hear people say, oh, I learned from my successes. I'm learning from my mistakes. Well, I got to tell you, you can't make enough mistakes to learn what you need to learn. And often what we do while we're focused on learning from our mistakes, we're ignoring our successes. We're not thinking, what did I learn from that success? I did something right. I mean, God, that's a miracle. Something right occurred. All the stars lined up. It was a harmonic convergence of things happening. And here we are. And what do we do? That's where you've got to do the postmortem on your projects to say, okay, what worked? How can we replicate that? And so that's what you'll do. And that, what did you do differently? Who was there? Who wasn't there? What did you stop doing? What did you start doing? There's a long list of things you can consider there about what worked in your business and what to do next. Now, I have a thing about elephants apparently, but elephants seem to be making a great illustration for a number of different things. This is a different elephant. He's not tied to a stake, but he's got 5 blind guys checking him out. This is an ancient parable where this is called the 5 blind men and the elephant. If you haven't heard of it, the idea is you got 5 blind guys who are, as you can see, got this elephant in different places. So for example, the guy there, he's got the elephant on the leg and he goes, this feels like a tree to me. And the guy up on the side of the elephant says, I don't know, it feels like a big wall. There's no tree here. This is just a big flat side of something. Then you got the little guy at the far end on the right there pulling on his tail saying, it's a rope. There's no tree. I got a rope in my hand. Then you got the other one at the top left. He's got the elephant by the ear and says, I'm feeling a giant leaf, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. And then finally you got the guy with the elephant by the trunk. He goes, I don't know what this thing is, but whatever. You got 5 different perspectives on this elephant and none of them know what it is. We do, because we're sitting back here and we can zoom out and we can see the entire elephant. And that's really what you want to do, like with your business plan. You don't have picture those 5 blind guys in the elephant. One's your marketing person, one's your chief financial officer, one might be your accountant, one might be a salesperson, one of them's you, So here we all are looking at this thing, trying to arguing over what's what. And if we can zoom out and get all the puzzle pieces on the table here, you can start to see what this thing really is that you're looking at, what you're dealing with. It's very important not to get caught up in this argument of the 5 blind men and the elephant arguing about different aspects of your business. And I think a business plan, especially when you look at the whole thing from, say, a 10,000-foot view, this is where your business starts to really make sense. And you get everybody on the same page. That's the one thing I've rarely seen in the world, is a company or a business where the right hand knows what the left hand's doing. I'll move on here. Marcus Aurelius, he was one of the famous Roman philosopher kings. And my favorite thing he said was this: everything you see is a perspective, it's not reality. Everything you hear is an opinion, it's not a fact. We can take that with the news we're listening to these days, what people are saying these days. But I think this alone is a very powerful, I would keep it in my mind as an ongoing mantra in here, besides learn from my successes, but it's just a perspective. It's not reality. It's just an opinion. It's not a fact, because there are so many perspectives and points of view that you got to keep yourself flexible, because this is what will help you prevent making mistakes in your business, is a much clearer objective view of what you're doing. I could go into this a little further. For example, I could say, okay, close your eyes. This is where you buy a new car, you buy this new car, you drive it off the lot, and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. And you're like, what is that? Why is it all of a sudden I'm seeing all these cars? Well, there's a psychological explanation. It's called your reticular activating system. It's like your mental radar that's looking for stuff. And if you were to say, like wherever you are right now, you see, close your eyes and say, think about all the things that are red in your office or in your room, wherever you are. And you open them up and you look around, notice how easy it is to spot the red things. And tell me about all the blue things you didn't see. You don't see the blue things. And I've seen people a lot of times where they're fixated on their problems. I got this problem, a problem. And how many times you said, yeah, but what if you did? What if you did that? And I don't want to hear it. I got problems. You don't understand. Because they're fixated on the problem. They're not looking for solutions. And this is where if you're focused on your problems, you're not going to see the solutions. It's just like when you drive off the lot in that new car, you don't see you see cars, but you see the ones that's just like the one you just got. You see them everywhere, but you really don't notice the other ones that much. They're just going zipping by you. So that's an interesting little psychological game you can play with yourself. But I share it because I want you to be unstuck from being stuck in your problems. Okay, I'm fixated on my problems. That's all I'm noticing. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Let's change my mental radar, which you do have conscious control over, is to decide, okay, I'm going to start looking for solutions to this problem. They're there. Where are they? And this goes back to why those businesses fail. They get fixated on their problems, and all they can see are problems. They can't see the solutions, even if people are trying to help them like crazy. And the next subject, which is going on quite big in our world, has to do with lots of diversity. I happen to love dogs. I got this off somebody's ad in Craigslist, but I'd love to have all these dogs. I love them. It'd be so much fun. But I've had, a diverse management team in my business for 30 years. And I got to say, as smart as I like to think I am, that I've got all the answers, that my perspective of the elephant is what it isn't. And it's just better to have all kinds of different people's perspectives, because you just never know. It opens up markets that you had no idea that were there. It opens up, marketing campaigns to different kinds of people with different interests and different biases and perspectives. It's just good for business, good for building your business. And it just keeps you flexible, keeps you on your toes. It's much more interesting and a much better way to go. And you don't need to do it because the law should say so. These should do this because it's just plain common sense. And so anyway, I love all these dogs. I've had several of these different kinds of guys. Anyway, so let's look at your management team. This, I was telling you before about where investors are very concerned about the management team, because these are the people that will be spending the money. And the other thing you got to understand, this is, there was a Marine Corps general, I think his name is Kuwaliak. Kuwaliak's law says that your lowest paid person is the representative of your brand. You think about that. If you have a receptionist, they usually don't get paid as much as everybody else, but they answer the phone, and they are the person that is your brand representative on the phone. Your sales reps, brand representatives. Your customer service reps are your brand representatives. So your whole management team needs to be, again, the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. There's a book by Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, and he talks about how it's required at Starbucks, you have to have a passion for coffee and the coffee experience. If you're a teetotaling CFO, you're just not going to get it. If you're someone who doesn't drink coffee, you're not going to get it. Everybody's got to be, I was going to say addicted to coffee, but it might as well be. But that's the idea. And the other, so everybody, is on the same page. You're into it. You're all about this. This makes a good management team. An attorney in Silicon Valley many years ago, when talking about structuring the team and structuring the deal with everybody, he says, you've also got to set your team up so everybody gets rich the same way. So for example, if you and I went into business and we bought a building and we wanted to fix it up, and you said, let's fix it up and sell it. And I said, no, let's fix it up and rent it. Are we both getting rich the same way? We're not. We're at odds. We now have a conflict. It's a simple conflict, which could probably be resolved, but nevertheless, it's a conflict. So you want to be sure everybody gets rich the same way. So you don't have somebody wanting to do something a different way. Anyway, you get the idea. And then, of course, there's transparency. I learned a long time ago that it was easier just to tell the truth as soon as possible, because the longer you cover it up, the harder it is. And then when it's revealed, we all hate a liar. We just seem to, hate it when it's worse. The lie is worse than the crime most of the time. And so just the transparency, I remember when I've screwed up and there's the boss is screaming, who did this? I'm going to kill him. Who did this? My bad. Sorry, man. And he goes, oh, okay. It was almost laughable. Like, whoa, I admitted it right away. You expect everybody to go, I didn't do it. Not me. Everybody's hiding out. But if you did it, just my bad. I screwed up. Here's what I was thinking. I didn't mean for that to happen. I didn't see it coming, blah, 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 whatever. But the transparency, it's just such one of those things that's so refreshing. And if you could take these three concepts in running your business, this would do wonders for you. It just makes things simpler. And the last part there's another thing here. Now, if you need to get rid of somebody or fire them, I hate to say get rid of them, but hey, it's what happens, The number one thing you've got to think about, because you have to replace your management team people from time to time. The number one mantra is you've got to maintain their dignity. You've got to allow them to save face. You don't do some screaming, you're fired, you're an idiot, because then, now they're going to be angry with you and they're going to come back with the labor board or worse, an attorney or something else, and they're going to be gunning for you. So the way to prevent that is to always be mindful of people's dignity in your business. And the last thing I'll say about this is keep in mind is your business is also a product. In fact, it might be one of your most valuable assets. And so think about that, how this is a product, because you're building something you're ultimately going to sell. Maybe not, maybe give it down to your family, whatever you want, or just run it forever and earn money on it. But ultimately, really, the big exit, if you will, is selling this business to somebody. And so in that regard, think of your company always as a product. Just all for the right reasons. Now, here's something interesting. I wanted to show you this because I love airplanes, but really the idea here is that you may have heard that the Drug Enforcement Agency will confiscate an airplane and then they'll sell it, right? They'll sell it, and typically they sell it for about half price. And you might wonder, why would they sell like a perfectly good DC-3 here, probably sell for $1 million. Why would they sell a perfectly good airplane for half price? Where's my next slide? Come on, baby. Don't tell me my slide gave out on me. There it is. No log books. You don't know if this airplane's been crashed. You don't know when those engines were overhauled, the props were overhauled. You don't know what's wrong with it. You got to assume everything is wrong with it because there's no records. There's no documentation. And so my point is, I want to say that documentation adds value. You want to leave breadcrumbs behind for the people who are investing or someone who's going to buy your business to really see and know what deals you've made with advisors, what deals you've made with companies. I think it wasn't Hotmail, but it was one of those companies that sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, not just because of the product. The company bought the relationships that the product had. So if you've got lots of relationships, you want to have those relationships documented and you want to have them in your system and easily in part of the sale of the business. Now, of course, what I've got are all these software tools. This is my online collaborative operations system, if you will. These are all my software products over the years that I mentioned in the beginning that we were in stores. We really no longer have them in boxes. Instead, they've turned into this online dashboard where you've got different panels, all the panels look alike, everything works the same, works together, and it also enables you to store your documents. Your business plan is here. You could give an investor read-only access to the business plan. They could read that. They can see your financial models. They can see your investor pitch deck. They can see the deals you've made with advisors and do all kinds of stuff. Now, just to compare, this is what you're going to see. This is what I got online. And this is what most of them show you. You got this blank section here with, you're supposed to figure out like, okay, what am I going to say about my management team? You don't know what to say. Like, it's blank. You've got to figure this out. And I tell you, here's what we do. The green text at the top is kind of like me sitting next to you going, hey, provide a brief description of each person's background, the instructional bit. And then you can see there's text in here that you can edit. The company variables you see there will automatically fill in. The owner founder will fill in. And this will start filling it in for itself. But you can simply edit over this text and customize it for yourself. It goes on where we list all the company people's names. This is what investors are looking for. Like, how old are these people? They want to know because they want to have an idea of how much experience do you have? You know, how many shares do you have? They want to get a sense of how much skin you got in the game, what the upside is for you, who some of your outside people are. And then, of course, they want to see your advisors. And here's where I explain the advisors. We have a letter outside in the dashboard there. We click on it, and it'll help you send a letter to an advisor saying, hey, I'd like you to meet an advisor. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you stock. I'm going to hold you harmless. The decision's mine, but your advice is accepted. And you can imagine an investor is going to want to know who the directors are, who the advisors are. Okay, you've set yourself up. You've got people to help you. You've got people to call in an emergency for something that's going on. You've got people who are, who may be product experts who can help in certain situations, people who can open doors for you at certain companies. All this stuff counts. My favorite success story to tell is about a client who got 2 Learjets. Imagine he's got his business plan. He goes to investors and says, I'm 26. I got a couple guys with me, buddies. We want to start a jet charter service. They got licenses. They know what they're doing. And they had a business plan. They used BizPlanBuilder. And they went to the investors, and this really isn't the kind of investment that an investor would finance. Instead, he finds a guy who owns 2 Learjets, shows him the business plan, and says, here's what I'd like to do. I want to start a jet charter service. Here's what I got going. Here's what it looks like. Here's my plan. Owner of the 2 Learjets says, I tell you what, I'm going to give you my Learjets, put my Learjets in your leaseback program. Take me wherever I need to go when I need to, but when I'm not using my planes, they're all yours. And these guys could charter them, manage them, take care of them. What kind of deal is that? So this is a big lesson I want to share with you, especially when it comes to raising capital, or should I say not raising capital, but getting what you want anyway. And that's to remember to keep your eye on the prize. In this case, the guy needed Learjets. Did he need to get money to buy the Learjets? That's typically people's knee-jerk response or action to take. In this case, no, you just go find somebody with the jets. This could apply to office space, retail space, vehicles, inventory, all kinds of stuff. So just keep that in mind. Your business plan is your ticket to getting what you need done. It's the bridge between fantasy and reality. No business. Do you think these guys would allow this guy to have 2 of his Learjets? Are you kidding me? Without some kind of good plan? No. These things are expensive, but they're really cool looking too. Anyway, here's another idea. This kind of looks like me pitching my grandmother. But anyway, the idea is this, is you don't have to sell shares in your business. You don't necessarily have to go into debt either. You could say, I tell you what I'll do. And you can see the example here is I'm going to give you 0.5% of my revenue of my company between years 6 and 10. I actually have this deal in place with an angel investor. And so whatever that 0.5 point is between years 6 and 10, he gets that. And then it reduces, to 1/10 of a point, years 11 through 20. And you could put in other kinds of things in there, X% till investment plus Y%. You can make this stuff up, but here's some ideas of that formula of a way you can get money for your business. Because a lot of these investors, if they're waiting for your business to sell, when you sell the company finally, these guys we're going to get old. They don't have time. The meter's running, and they want to get some payback on your deal. If they can get payback as part of your revenue, that they're getting money right away. They aren't waiting for you to sell it. So they can get some money from you here. This is just another idea. One more thing, speaking of investors, is, and I see this a lot, maybe I should have led with this, but over and over and over again, you could have a 15-minute investor pitch a 20-minute investor pitch and spend 15 minutes of selling the product to the investors. They don't want to buy your product. They want to know what the deal in your business is. I equate it to selling them a Coke, or they want to invest in Coke machines. They get it what Coke is. Give them a couple of minutes on the product, let the dog taste the dog food, share whatever it is, get them sold, yay. Now, how's this a business? They want to know, how is this a business? That is what you want to fixate on there. Oftentimes we'll say things like, I'm going to get another thing about forwarding language. This is kind of off topic, but it's something, I got a whole presentation on this, but I'll give you the gist of it here. So if I said to you, don't think of an elephant, don't worry. Don't think of an elephant. Of course you think of an elephant. You got an elephant in the room. Then I say, well, imagine doing a sales pitch, and you say, don't worry, I won't disappoint you. We won't lose your money. What if we now got in the space? We've got an elephant, we've got worry, we've got disappointment, and we got losing your money. And you wonder why you get to the end of a sales pitch and there's like this herd of elephants or a big bunch of objections facing you that you've got to deal with. Well, you put most of those objections there yourself because you introduced the concept, in this case, of worry, disappointment, and losing your money. And look no further. Like, really, I should look somewhere else too? You got to be careful of the ideas you're putting in people's minds. And this is why, learning from your success is so important. How did I get that again? Anyway, so instead of saying, you want to say, you say, don't think of an elephant, you say, I've got this under control. I think you're going to like it. Your money is well invested. So it's all positive language. The double negatives introduce the very thing you want to keep out of the conversation. So see if you can, this is a practice. This is not something you're going to get overnight. We've all been doing this for a million years, thinking in double negatives. Don't forget the car keys. Don't forget to pick up the kids. No, remember the kids. Remember the milk. Remember all of that stuff. So that's just something to really keep in mind. I do have a nice little book for you here. If you went to businesspowertools.com or went to Steve got to introduce, actually it's all links on Steve Koob's website here where you can get access to the things of mine. But this book introduces in more detail what investors are looking for in your business and really what you can do to gain that advantage by having your act together, having a good business plan, understanding what investors are looking for, understanding why, learning from your successes and all that. And lastly, I've got this cool well, second to lastly, I should say, here's a spreadsheet, which you can also find on my website. And the idea here is, well, I was sitting around one time thinking, I'm sick of reading about one more, billionaire business entrepreneur, and how come I don't have $1 billion? And I think, well, wait a minute, how much work is that going to take to get $1 billion? In fact, how much money do I really need to get and have and do everything I want? So I started this spreadsheet where I listed all the stuff I wanted. A home, Santa Barbara, $5 million buys quite the home here, even though, anyway, it's crazy pricing. But it doesn't matter what it is, it's designed, you can download this, it's Excel, but just to gives you an idea of like how we think through some of these ideas in building your business. This is more of a fun one, but to get started with, you can see what the down payment's going to be, which calculates how much cash you're going to need. You factor in the interest rate and the term of the financing. It tells you the monthly payment. You factor in maintenance because that's real. And you put in all this stuff and you figure at the bottom there in the green text, it says, well, I'm going to I get 10% of my money that I'm going to invest. I'm going to pay 39% in combined income taxes. If I sell my company, I'm going to have to pay 15% there. So I'm going to have to sell my company, either win the lottery for $10,200,000 or sell my company for $16 million and a quarter to get the same thing and to have all this money to do everything I want to do and keep the interest payments and pay the taxes and live happily ever after with all my stuff. So that's the idea behind this thing. It's kind of fun to do, and I highly recommend doing it. And the last thing I wanted to get to is this is a book I wrote that incorporates some of these ideas, but it's the idea of all this stuff I wanted to tell people about building a business over 30 years that would be really useful for you to know. You can also download the PDF version on my site, but you can also buy it on Amazon. I think they sell it for less than that and pay me even less. So, but it's like I have a black belt in martial in Taekwondo. I've got a pilot's license, and just different metaphors I use, different things I think of, and a lot of training and a lot of workshops over the years. That part about, the learned helplessness, getting the elephant untied from the log and learning from my success. It's everything I told you here I've applied in building my own company. And in Business Black Belt, I talk about what I applied, how I applied it, how it worked, how I tweaked it, what happened, how you can use it, what would make sense to you. And that's in a nutshell what that's all about. That is pretty much it for me. I can demo my dashboard if you like to see that, but you can certainly see that at my website, or go to Steve's and you can find a link there. What else is there any questions you might want to ask me, Steve?
Yeah, I've been taking notes like crazy here. So this is really great, Burke. I appreciate it. And I just want to mention to folks that if you want to take a look at Business Power Tools, make sure you use the link that's in the member rewards and resources page, because that's the special negotiated link we have with Burke. And you get that discount. No money goes in my pocket. I just wanted to give you the best possible value as a member of the community. I do see a question here from Paul Melkonian. He says, I've had some success adapting business planning and management techniques to the nonprofit space. But are you aware of planning resources, paid or free, laugh aloud, specifically for nonprofits? Any thoughts on that?
Well, we have had a number of nonprofits use BizPlanBuilder. The changes would need to be something simple changes like, here's the thing, a nonprofit, you're still running a business. It's just, as one person put it, you're managing a business. It's a tax status. It's not a lifestyle. There's a tax status to its nonprofit. Now, of course, you're going to call profit something like surplus. You're probably going to call customers beneficiaries. I know, and my mom, in fact, is on a number of nonprofit boards, and I asked her, said, does a business plan make sense? She goes, absolutely, because the difference is what donors are looking for. Well, first of all, donors come from the business world for the most part. They understand business. If you show them a business plan, they're like, wow, you're actually got your act together. And the big thing they want to see is one of her nonprofits is feeding donkeys. Well, the question is, how much percentage of the money do I donate actually goes to carrots and donkey food and maybe donkey vet bills versus admin costs that in some of these nonprofit organizations, the CEO's making $750,000 a year. That's not as enticing to a donor who really wants to do something with their money and see it go somewhere. So your business plan can help you with all that. I do have some people on my advisory table, or my directory, who do specialize in nonprofits, who could help you turn your business plan and make it more nonprofit oriented. We do have, and people have used BizPlanBuilder. You just won't use all of it. Make a few simple changes to it, and it becomes very good for nonprofits. And we're working on, I'd like to find a nonprofit person who could really make it speak all the nonprofit language that you want to speak and really make it work that way. But there's so many different kinds of nonprofits that often match the businesses that we help, that it applies. Just those few ideas, you just think of it in terms of a nonprofit and rethink it that way, but it's got all the bones and the structure and the financial models that you need for that. So that's really, I think it makes it very convincing. In fact, Rotary gave one guy $250,000 so they could, or donated, $250,000 on a business plan written with BizPlanBuilder, so they could go repopulate the Twa people. Remember the film, Jane Goodall, she got the gorillas in the mist, got them helped in this jungle, and they got it turned it into a law that said no people can live in this jungle. Only these gorillas can live there. Well, hold on a second. There was a whole tribe of pygmies who lived there for 1 million years, and they got kicked out. So this $250,000 got them back into their homeland. So I think of that's saving the world. I don't know, save the world for some guys, but that was created through initially with BizPlanBuilder. So it's actually worked, and there's a real live story for you. So, help that answer that?
He's looks like he had some follow-up questions in the Q&A. If you want to pop that panel open there, it might be the easiest way.
Let me unshare here a moment. I'm happy to show the dashboard if you got time. We can do that. The sharing's done. The PowerPoint keynote is off. We'll put that away. Okay. Am I on camera now?
Yeah, you're on the camera, and you've been on all along. You'll probably be a little box in the corner when we do the recording. But in the Q&A, if you pop that open, you'll see that Paul had a follow-up in there to your question, in your response, I should say.
Oh, the Q&A, there it is. I've had some success adapting business planning.
Yep, that's when you answered there.
Yep. And not common, that space to apply, but yeah, it's not. A partnership offer. Hey, if you want to help me make this thing into a nonprofit, let's do it. And then what we could do is we could have people who are doing nonprofits, we could say they could contact you to help them put it together. I'm just interested in selling subscriptions at this point, and partnering with people who could help actually, use the business plan. In fact, you could put your own logo on it and show people what you can do for them. And then they will hire you. Then you subscribe them into the dashboard or subscribe for them. Everybody needs their own subscription. But that helps me, and that gets works for you.
Yeah, Paul, I'll make an intro you and Burke afterwards, so you guys can chat, and we'll just do an email intro. You guys can take it offline. Good idea. Okay. Good for speaking up. Anybody else have a question? It looks like we've answered the questions that are live in the Q&A so far.
And if they go through your system and come to mine, and they can see the dashboard demo. And it's when you see the demo, it blows people away. They're just like, oh my God, there's all this stuff in here. And everything works the same. Everything works alike. It works together. And there's a lot of stuff there. And we have a 2-week free trial. Just click on it and bounce around in there and click on things. Start your business plan. Fill in some numbers. See how it works. And then when you do subscribe, it automatically saves everything you've got, so you don't lose anything trying it. And there's also a 60-day guarantee on it as well. So I just encourage you to start. There's an employee policy manual, there's a marketing plan, there's a safety plan. There could be any number of reasons that you got stuff to do, you got problems to fix, you got projects to put in place, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah, and again, that link for that directly for the discount is in the member rewards and resources page. But I do have a graduation party to go to in about an hour. But in the meanwhile, maybe we could spend like 5 minutes, take a quick tour of the product, maybe show the dashboard. I think that'd be really helpful for the folks who are on the call here, and we'll be on the recording as well, so people can see what it's at. Of course, if you watch this recording, this is recorded August 17th, 2020. If you're watching it in 2022, probably it's been well upgraded by that point, because Burke's always working on this software, and I see reports all the time of things being changed and upgraded and move forward to make it even better. But go ahead and take a spin, Burke. It'd be great to see it.
Can you see it?
Not yet. I have to get the share screen again.
How about now?
There we go.
You see the dashboard?
Yes.
Okay. So here it is. This is the homepage. The homepage really is kind of like the bulletin board. We've got the priorities of the company. You have the mission, vision, and purpose. This really is for everybody in the company's benefit. It's mostly derived, in fact, it's pretty much all derived from the business plan. So the competitive advantages, the sales channels, products and services, all this stuff comes right out of there. And so when you get to the business plan here, what you can do is you open it up. Come on, it's a little slow because I'm trying to go through Zoom and out to another web page. And you open it up. Here I have a business plan for a cannabis business. It fills in all this information about you. You say, we are in the cannabis essential oils industry. So this fills in a number of places where industry variable is. You can fill in what that says. We're trying to do as much typing for you ahead of time. This all just puts all the data in where it belongs. Here we've got a variety of different kinds of plan versions of it. You see there's a box for the nonprofit there. This is service, but cannabis is amongst a number of other services. So we set it up for cannabis, and then you just go on to the narrative. Say I could save and next or go to the narrative here. And here in this, you can see the whole menu tree of this business plan. There's a lot here. It's designed, and every one of these sections came out of somebody needed it. Some investor asked about, like, what's your psychographic segmentation? That's kind of more of a behavioral thing or thing, how people think about stuff. And so different places, you can go in, like, let's take a market analysis, for example, was a big deal. And so you've got all this content is built in. It's easy to edit. If this paragraph makes no sense, just delete it. We've replicated paragraphs. They say some of the similar things. They all belong in this section, but you don't need to, you just explain your industry enough so someone gets it. It isn't you don't have to beat it to death, use all this stuff. You're going to delete probably half of what's here, but at least we're giving you an idea of what to say, how to say it in a number of different ways. At the top, there's a template. So if this screen sometimes comes up